So I set out on the biggest quest of my life to make the best chocolate chip cookie we have ever tasted. Did I succeed? Wait to the end and see. So take one. Let the fun begin. So the first thing I'm going to do is to brown my 2 sticks of butter. This will make approximately 4 dozen, depending on how big or small you make them. So around medium-sized cookies, this will make 4 dozen. And I'm gonna brown my butter. Like I said before, this is a recipe that I've tweaked over the years, and I find for me the way I like my chocolate chip cookies and the way the family eats them, they're a little chewy in the middle, and then they have a little sort of crisp crust at the edges. They're a little crispy at the edges, and that's the way I like them. So this is the way I make them, and I've converted them to my side of thinking. So I'm just going to brown the butter and then get on to the next step. So you want to do this on a low fire, stirring occasionally so it doesn't burn. You don't want to burn your butter, you just want to brown it. And it's kind of along the lines of making ghee, but we're not going to take it that far. And of course, we're going to use all the little brown bits that you would normally strain off if you were doing ghee. So I'm just making sure everything's melted together. And then bring it to, it's sort of like a light brown color. You don't want it too dark. And then we'll add it to our sugar mixture and get it cream. So I have all my ingredients for my cookies laid out here. This is 2 large eggs that I bought from frozen, and I defrosted them, and they're not quite room temp because, well, they're room temp my kitchen because my kitchen is cold, but I might nuke them for like 10 seconds just to take that chill off, or maybe put them over a little bit of warm water just to take that chill off. So I have 2 large eggs, and they are from frozen. They work great. I have my salt. I use pink Himalayan sea salt just about 99% of the time. Sometimes I use canning salt when I'm canning something, but usually I just use this in replacement for canning salt. I use this for everything, cooking, everything. I have dark brown sugar, and this is vanilla sugar, which I'm going to use for regular sugar. And it's just sugar that I've incorporated some vanilla into. And I do have a video up about that. Maybe I'll link it in an iCard here if I remember. And I'm going to use that in replacement for my white sugar. So I'm going to combine the 2 of those. I have my all-purpose flour. This is my secret ingredient, so to speak, right here. It is just some cappuccino powder, cappuccino mocha powder. And I just feel that it enhances the chocolate taste a little better. It's like a more depth of flavor. And then I have my vanilla, and this is my vanilla that I make. This is the last bottle I have. And my one that I made, and I'll link it in the iCard if I remember. I'll show you how I make this. It's the last one, so I'm trying to make it stretch a little bit. I don't think it's gonna last. I do have a backup vanilla extract that I can pull out if I need to, but it's not mine. I bought it in the store. So I have the vanilla, and then the all-important chocolate chips. Now I'm using milk today. This is the date I put them up. I'm using milk today, but I've used semi-sweet, I've used a combination, I've used dark a time or 2, and I've used a combination of all 3. They work just as fine, no matter which ones. And I think, yeah, these expire this month. So we are using that. And then this is just that, the cappuccino powder that I've already measured out. And I'll put all the measurements in the description box below so you can follow along with me if you want to do so. And if you want to substitute out regular white sugar for the vanilla sugar that I have, then that's fine. If you don't have any vanilla sugar, by all means. If you want to substitute out light sugar for dark sugar, by all means, go right ahead. If you want to use iodized salt instead of pink Himalayan salt, maybe you don't have it, yeah, go right ahead. But this is what I have in my house. I do have iodized salt, but it's in my long-term storage, and I'm not getting that out just to make a couple of recipes because I don't cook with it. So I'm going to I have a stand mixer. If you don't have a stand mixer, you can do it by hand or one of the handheld mixers. I'm going to get my sugar in here and then my brown butter, and we're going to get... Okay, so this is what the butter looks like when it's browned. It's a slight brown color. And as you can see, I'm just set it off to the side to let it cool down a little bit before I add it to my sugar and cream everything together. And it smells sort of like a nutty, almost, I don't want to say peanuts because, well, yeah, that's what it reminds me of, like a nutty scent. And that's when you know it is ready to go. So I'm just going to let it cool for a minute or a couple of minutes and then add it to my sugar and cream the two together. The way through, you want to stop your mixer and scrape down the sides. As you can see, my butter is still liquid. Don't worry, at this point you're fine. You might think, oh my gosh, it's ruined, it's separated, it's never going to come together. It will. Believe you me, I've done this several times and it does come together. So keep mixing it and you'll be fine. It might take a little bit, but it's all right. So keep going. What it looks like, it's still a little liquidy, but we're going to go ahead and add our vanilla, our eggs one at a time, get that incorporated, and then add our baking powder, baking soda, flour, and salt. So what I'll do is just measure all my dry ingredients. I have my flour in here, my baking powder, baking soda, can't really see those two, salt, and then my espresso, cappuccino powder, or whatever you have. You can omit that if you want. And I just take a fork and I'm just incorporating them in, just sort of sifting them through the powder. I'm sorry, the flour. Yeah, it's powder. And just so it gets evenly distributed, so there's no big pockets of any one ingredient in there and gets clumped and stuck together. And I'm going to add them into my wet ingredients. You see how that came together? It's nice and smooth and it is ready to add. And I'll just add my dry ingredients into it, probably about a half a cup or so at a time. So that's what I'm going to do to get it in. So a little thing about my canning lids that I use for my dry canning. I call this dry canning. As you can see, I don't know if you can see that really well. It's already used. See that indentation there, and it's a bit bent here. Does it hold the seal? As you can see, I am trying to get this off. It is quite firm under, and I can, a year ago, it is 2021. I'm sorry, 2021. Yeah, it's 2021, but December of 2021. So it's been canned, dry canned, over a year, and the seal is still quite tight. As you can see, I am trying to get it off and it's not coming off. And you can see they are fine. They haven't or anything in them because they're not all stuck together. That's typically what happens when chocolate chips, they melt and get stuck together. So I'm going to open this, attempt this one-handed, and I do it right here by the bowl symbol most times when they're this way. Sometimes they have that Sure Fresh up here and the bowl labels up here on the newer ones, but I always try to do it down here so I can tell whether my lids have been used before. So I'm just gonna pop this open if I can do this one-handed. Hear that seal? Nice. So you know it's held. And you can see there's nothing going on with my chocolate chips. And I usually save probably about half a cup or so. Well, that was more than half. I wanted to use half of my jar. I used more than half, but that's no biggie. So I used about a half a cup of flour, and I just toss my chocolate chips in here, and that helps them to stop that sinking to the bottom that you get sometimes with chocolate chip cookies. And they stay distributed throughout the cookie, I find, if I do it this way. So I'm just going to add that to the rest of my batter. And you can see I didn't incorporate all my flour in there because I don't want to overmix it. I'm going to scrape this down, get that flour off of there, and then add my chocolate chips, and I'm ready for the next step. And that is it. That is all to it. I'm ready to start scooping them out, and I'm going to put them in the fridge for about an hour before I cook them off. Okay, so my dough is ready. I'm just going to take my handy dandy little cookie scoop and just put them on a line cookie sheet. It's a parchment that I have down, and I am just scooping them on. And I will put these in the fridge, or you can put them in the freezer for about an hour before I bake them off. And I'm just going to carry on and do that with the rest of my batter here, my dough. And then once I have everything on the cookie sheet, I'm just going to put them in the fridge for an hour. And I'm not going to cover them. I mean, I'm going to put them on a higher shelf where they don't have to. And there's really nothing in my fridge scent wise that's going to get into my cookies. But if you want to cover them with like some maybe cling wrap or something like that, you can, but I just find it's not necessary. Got them all scooped out. Most of the batter is on this tray. I'm going to pop them in the fridge and then get the rest on a separate, this is what I have left, on a separate cookie sheet, and get those into the fridge. So now my cookies are out of the fridge and they're nice and firm, and they are ready to be baked in a 350 degree oven. So here are the results of the first batch. And I will say I left them in there too long. As you can see, the bottoms are not quite what I expected. So I'm going to call this a maybe. Maybe not. But anyway, onward and upward. This is not the final take. So this is take 2. What you're going to see is I'm going to start off with some melted butter, not browned. So we're going to see how this works out. So now that I have my butter and sugar cream together, I'm going to scrape down my bowl, add my vanilla and eggs, and then my dry ingredients. So I really like the way this dough is looking so far, but the ultimate test will be the taste test. So that was not it. I am on to take number 3, and I'm back to that browned butter. I think that was the key, with one difference. So here is my brown butter, and I let it solidify. I did this yesterday and let it solidify in the fridge overnight, and I'm just going to bring it up to room temperature before I start using it. So into my stand mixing bowl goes my vanilla sugar, my dark brown sugar, and my brown butter. So now that I have all my wet ingredients brought together, it is time to start adding my dry ingredients. And this batch did not have the mocha powder in it. I actually forgot it this time around, and at the end, I regretted it. I will definitely be incorporating that into my final recipe. But anyway, I'm adding in my dry ingredients along with my chocolate chips. So this time around, I am adding in my chocolate chips by hand. I'm going to see if that makes any difference to the final results or not for this batch, and we'll see how this goes. So once I incorporate my chocolate chips in, I'm just going to scoop it out onto a lined cookie sheet and put it into my fridge overnight and bake them off tomorrow. So into the fridge they go. So the next day they are out of the fridge. I'm going to put them on a separate cookie sheet to bake. And I will say these I did not roll. I just scooped them onto the cookie sheet that I put in the fridge, and then I put that onto the cookie sheet I'm going to bake them on. And we'll see how this batch bakes off. So I will say this is one of the better batches that I have baked. I have found the right temp for my oven. They're not too dark. I like the way the middle is still nice and soft, and the chocolate chips are distributed throughout the cookie. And I will say that the tweaks I have made so far are probably a keeper. So I've been taking numerous copious notes on everything I liked and what I'm still trying to work out. So hopefully in the next take we'll get it. So I think I finally have my recipe dialed in. There's one other tweak I need to make, and that's whether I'm going to roll them or simply just scoop them out on the cookie sheet, put them in the fridge, and how long I want to chill them for. So I'm going to do one way and one with the rolled and see how they bake off. So they've been in the fridge the same amount of time, and I think I have it down. So into the oven they go to bake them off, keeping your fingers crossed that this is the last tweak I have to do, because our waistlines can't take much more. So this is the rolled ones. These are the ones I rolled into the bowl, and these ones over here are the ones I just scooped onto the tray. So we're going to take a taste test and see what we have. So after 10 pounds, I did spread it around. Everybody got a little bit, and several batches of cookies later, my thoughts are browning your butter is the best way to go. Let it solidify, maybe do it the previous day, and then bake your cookies. Using vanilla sugar is a great way to go instead of just vanilla extract, because I find the vanilla is a bit more intense that way while using the vanilla sugar than just the regular vanilla extract. Also, using this cappuccino powder, this cappuccino mocha powder, just brings an extra layer of flavor to your cookies that you can't go wrong with. And using brown sugar and that vanilla sugar combined, the dark brown sugar, you can almost taste the richness of that brown sugar in the final product. So that's definitely a way to go. And using a combination of bread flour and all-purpose flour with my salt, my mocha powder, my baking soda, and my baking powder is like the ultimate trifecta combination to get these cookies to turn out the way I wanted them to be. I tried a combination of them, and I've always come back to all of these making up how this end result comes out to where I want it to be. And I also found that thoroughly mixing your dry ingredients together before you add them to your butter and sugar, your creamed ingredients, it almost lends to a smoother or more consistent taste throughout the cookie. One time I just added it into the bowl, like the baking powder and baking soda and everything, and I did get a few clumps here and there of those particular ingredients. Also, as you see, one of these batches I just scooped them to my tray, and the other ones I actually hand rolled into a bowl. I find that doing them in a bowl and putting them in the fridge, either a couple of hours or even overnight is even better, makes a more consistent cookie. So I really hope you try this recipe and you enjoy it as much as my family and I do. So with a couple of simple ingredients, you too can have the ultimate chocolate chip cookie. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe and click that notification bell to be notified when I upload videos.